A solar eclipse. The cosmic ballet goes on.
Does anyone want to switch seats?
I've read Marx. I've read Engels. I've read Das Kapital.
The world is run by Trotskyists.
Hardcore Trotskyists.
How great an anti-American Marxist!
They're controlled by Trotskyists, as you put it, and these are the most evil, sick human beings on the face of the planet.
Hey everybody, greetings comrades. You're listening to The Left Opposition on Spotify. And with me is myself, Aaron, and our co-host Chris. It's just the two of us. It's just the two of us coming at you tonight with a little bit of a news episode. So this will be less theory heavy, I think, and more like we're just going to take a look at the week in news and see what's happening.
That's right. We will get back to dunking on patriotic socialists, soon enough. I know a lot of people are very excited to hear what we think of Jackson Hinkle, Haas, and all the other dum-dums on the supposed left. But yeah, Caleb Maupin dropped a few bangers about what woke is. Good thing he's declaring him and the Republican Party both declaring the wars on woke. I'm glad Caleb Maupin is a patriotic socialist. Well, just to let you know, everybody, Trotskyism, according to Caleb Maupin, is woke. So congratulations. I thought being woke was a good thing, but to weirdos like him, it's actually a bad thing. I mean, him and Ron, it's weird that like Caleb Maupin and Ron DeSantis would be on the same side, but not really. Because when you have a made-up ideology, which is almost a precursor to fascism, that you'd pick up some of their traits. So really strange, but I do digress. So a couple of news articles we have here. Do you want me to go first on this?
I'll go first. I'll start us off.
Go for it, Aaron.
If you were lucky enough to be in the path of totality for the solar eclipse this week, I really hope you found time to appreciate this cosmic event and spend it with loved ones. I took the day off and I visited my crippled mother who lives alone, and we sat in her backyard waiting with bated breath for the clouds to dissipate. We weren't sure if we were going to see it. And finally, at the last minute, they were thin enough to see the crescent sun and ultimately the eclipse itself. The world went dark and silent and cold for 2 minutes. And in this time, I saw with my own eyes, not just the sun's corona, but these pink prominences of gaseous hydrogen. The light returned and the world returned to normal. And so we may experience dark and often dreary days in the current epoch of capitalism, a system that brings misery and poverty, war, slavery, genocide to untold billions of people, and nothing but darkness. But as sure as the planets dance in their cosmic ballet in predictable ways, so too will the darkness of capitalism pass, and we can step into the light of socialism. So I just want to start off tonight's episode with a short tribute to Carl Sagan in light of this week's stellar event. During totality, I got to play the first 2 minutes of his TV series Cosmos, which opens with the lines, "The cosmos is all there is, or ever was, or ever will be." A staunch materialist, this line no doubt is meant to contrast with the Bible's opening verse, which is like, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." I myself, I'm not religious, but Sagan's voice combined with, witnessing an eclipse, it's the closest thing I'll ever get to a religious experience. So I used to be involved headfirst in the new atheist movement of like the mid 2000s. I got autographed books and I met Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris. And they often cited Sagan in their works as someone to turn to for appreciation of a material reality of the world and of the cosmos. So it was Sagan who saved me from falling down that new atheist rabbit hole that quickly degenerated into anti-feminism, the meme that of, facts don't care about your feelings that was made famous by Ben Shapiro, men's rights activism, Gamergate, which heavily involved figures like Steve Bannon, and ultimately the cult of Trump. Robert Evans of the podcast Behind the Bastards once said, "Everyone who is involved in the new atheist movement is now either a socialist or a fascist." So I'm glad Carl Sagan directed me on the path to socialism and eventually Marxism. Sagan himself was no Marxist. But I genuinely believe that he would have loved dialectical materialism if he hadn't heard of it already. He'd say things like, the cosmos is full beyond measure of exquisite interrelationships, and other wonderful lines like, worlds of ice and stars of diamond, atoms as massive as suns, and universes smaller than atoms. I've seen the Cosmos TV series like 20 times, and I will absolutely host a viewing party. If anyone ever wants to join me, I will watch it again.
That's awesome. Wow. Well, man, damn.
Ever the materialist, he believed that we should pursue the truth no matter where it leads. But in order to find the truth, we need imagination and skepticism both. Wonderful dialectic statement. As far as I know, he was never a socialist, but he absolutely shared with us a skepticism of capitalism that was destroying our planet and the people that it housed. So on topics of the cosmos and of Marxism, the Big Bang Theory is a contentious issue among Trotskyists. It's practically a recurring joke at this point. Yeah, Chris, don't laugh.
I'm coughing.
And we should maybe be able to make fun of ourselves for it, right?
Yes.
Personally, I'm not going to take a position on it one way or the other. The cosmologists and the astronomers describe the Big Bang as the earliest moment of the known universe, and they freely admit we have no idea what came before. And I think it's okay not to know, and perhaps we'll never know, right? Carl Sagan would ask, if God created the universe, then who created God? If God always existed, then why not skip a step and say the universe always existed? If Carl Sagan is open to the universe being infinitely old, then so am I. These are not easy questions, but I'd rather leave it to the astronomers, ever scrambling in their constant budget cuts to find the answers if they're out there. All I know is with the increasing budget cuts of government space agencies, the silencing of data from weather monitoring satellites, to the corporate and private exploration of space, capitalism will never find us the answers. So one last thing, and this is the reason Carl Sagan is relevant to this podcast. It's not just an inspiration to me personally, but he was someone who was committed to the truth. And in his book, The Demon Haunted World, he compared the witch trials of Europe in the Middle Ages to the Stalinist regime of the USSR. He knew imagery of Trotsky was erased and replaced with heroic images like Lenin and Stalin, and he wrote about this. He understood the old Bolsheviks who saw Stalin's role as peripheral to the revolution. They were denounced as traitors and Trotskyite fascists when they were imprisoned and tortured into confession. Carl Sagan understood the Stalinist historical falsification all too well. In fact, he wrote, but it's hard to keep potent historical truths bottled up forever. New data repositories were uncovered. New, less ideological generations of historians grow up. In the late 1980s and before, Andrian and I would routinely smuggle copies of Trotsky's History of the Russian Revolution into the USSR so our colleagues could know a little about their own political beginnings. End quote. So in light of this week's eclipse, I want to take a moment to see how the cosmos really does affect our day-to-day lives here in the real world. For a brief moment, neighbors, strangers came together to marvel at a beautiful phenomenon in the sky. Everyone made sure everyone else had glasses to view the eclipse safely. And to me, it really underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another because this is the only planet we have. And also in light of this, the economists shit themselves over the eclipse as they estimate it cost $700 million in lost productivity for a mere few minutes of pleasure for millions of people. So we can't even have this to enjoy, right? There has to be some dollar amount attached to it. Get back to work, peasants. If a 2-minute eclipse can do this much damage, imagine what a general strike would do. Back to you, Chris.
Wow. Damn. Wow. Aaron, man, away with words. I was going to read a Caleb thing, but I don't think that's even appropriate. Well said. When I was making my rounds, Hatchack, so I have to say my words. As someone who's a member of the National Association of Letter Carriers, but I'm not mentioning my federal job, but when I was walking around, that point you made about how everyone came together, we're a very atomized society here in America, but during this, that short, build up, kids were coming out to me. People were like, hey, mailman, do you have glasses on you? Everyone just running out, giving me I already had, I got a pair and I kept showing them off, but people were sitting on their porch. Kids were playing. They're all it was a really nice moment that we all got to share together for a brief time. And everyone's looking out. Everyone was standing around and it was like, hey, are you it was just it was nice. Someone Someone saw, hey, can I borrow your glasses? Like, yeah, sure. I put them on. They were looking. It was a really, really nice time. I really enjoyed it. And of course, you have your CNBC and the capitalist press are like, well, this is costing us profits. That's the whole thing. Get back to work, so making them money. And that's their biggest complaint too. Good God. But I'm glad you put that was amazingly eloquent. This is the most eloquent you're ever going to get on this podcast. All right. So Aaron, nice job. That was well said. So Carl Sagan, truly one of the great ones, and who had a very materialistic view of things, I would say, which is how we kind of base Marxism. We're not utopians. We don't think thoughts are the big things. It's the real world that inspires us. And Carl Sagan, one of the greats. I think a lot of us, if you're a communist, you're probably a Star Trek fan. I don't know if you've heard of the show before. I don't know. Do they have it in Canada by chance? You ever hear of it?
Yes, they filmed Strange New Worlds in Canada.
Ah, no kidding. Wow. I always make one jab about Canada because, it's a great place. I love it. I've been in Canada a bunch of times. I like it there. But it's one of those shows that really show, like, what do you want the world to look like in a way? It's like Star Trek is kind of like a world without money, without want, without hunger. That's the world we could actually have. But wow. So yes, keep looking up, keep looking out to the universe. And that is some good stuff. So
Gene Roddenberry was a socialist, I believe.
There was comments he made. Yeah, that definitely looked like it's in that direction.
And,
so
Lucille Ball, who was a producer at CBS at the time, was a card-carrying member of the Communist Party.
Ooh, all right. No, I didn't know that part, but I know. Ooh, wow, cool.
Yeah, and she understood like the utopian vision. As carefully as we use that word, she understood what the show was like trying to do. This was 20 years out from World War II.
Right.
And the show had a Japanese pilot piloting the spaceship.
Yep.
And
a black woman who was at comms.
Yeah.
And a Russian person during the Cold War to have someone there.
Yeah.
Right. The first interracial kiss, Star Trek,
That's right.
They were breaking down barriers left and right. Also was a pretty good show. So, I will admit I never really watched the original series. I like the movies, but I never watched the series. I'm a Next Generation DS9 type of person. I haven't watched Voyager.
We got to do this. We got to do the Star Trek episode soon.
There'd be too many people wanting to come on. That could be a 12-part series just on the beginning, but good Lord. All right. Let's switch gears a little bit. Now let's bring down the happiness to talk about the world we live in under capitalism. So I have an article right now. Let me just make it so I can see. All right. So this is an article from New York Mag or Intelligent. I don't know which one, but it's called "The Left-Wing Authoritarians Shutting Down the Democratic Party." So I just want to let you know, for my fellow left-wing authoritarians, the liberals, not too happy. So I'm going to read. Oh God, this is about a few paragraphs. So I'm going to read a few of these and then I'll just stop halfway through to comment and then we can discuss here. But, so the article starts up. This is written by, who's this clown? Jonathan Chiat, right? Okay, Jonathan. Imagine a world in which Congressman Jamie Raskin attempts to deliver a speech on, quote, democracy, autocracy, and the threat to reason in the 21st century, and is unable to deliver his remarks because Trump supporters drown him out and authorities justify the disruption as an exercise in, quote, democracy. Democrats attempting to raise money for the opposition are surrounded in the streets by Trumpists shouting, fuck Joe Biden, and abusing them with racial epithets. These are the kind of scenes that come to mind when we imagine the authoritarian culture of a second Trump term. They are also events that have not only occurred, but have grown in commonplace. This pattern of behavior is illiberal and dangerous. The twist, of course, is that the mob shutting down the opposition to Trump are not Trump supporters, or at least not right-wing Trump supporters. Good God. Pro-Palestinian activists have set out to disrupt the Democratic Party officials from speaking and raising funds to defeat Trump. A New York Times story recently drew some attention to the political problems that creates for the Democrats. Indeed, some of the protests are trying to defeat Biden, ergo, to get Trump elected, to teach the Democrats a lesson, and others are merely trying to force the Democrats to move left before the election. Because Democrats perceive some of the protests as potential Biden voters, they have soft-pedaled their criticism of their tactics. The handful of critics have focused on the political ramifications of the protest movement. If you're, and this is John Fetterman. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a,
Love
so
him.
I'm glad they're gonna reference this clown.
Working class Joe.
Yep. If you're gonna now organize people to walk away from supporting the president, then you are now de facto supporting and helping Trump, he said. But the problem is not one. The problem is not one of mere effectiveness. Drowning out speakers and disrupting exercises in politics, regardless of its cause or target, is wrong on principle. Oh, Jesus. I'm not referencing the tactics like holding protest marches, speeches, social media posts. Oh, there's a good one. Organized uncommitted votes in the Democratic primary or others exercise the First Amendment rights. I'm specifically referring to a campaign to shut down speakers who oppose, or even in many cases, simply decline to endorse the movement's agenda. Usually it means interrupting speeches with screaming insults until the protesters are dragged out of the room, which has become the norm at Biden campaign events. At events with sub-presidential levels of security, protests often succeed in overwhelming the event and its security and shutting down the speech, or entirely, sometimes employing violence. Well, that would be it. I'd place in the same category aggressive personal harassment campaigns like gathering outside somebody's home at 3:00 in the morning with bullhorn shouting, "We're not going to let you sleep," or surrounding individuals on the streets to scream insults.
Good.
I'm just going to stop right there.
Right. What kind of violence were they instigating? Was it, being thrown to the ground by cops and kicked? Like, what kind of violence are we talking about here?
Yeah, it doesn't
violent.
Yeah, I don't think the protesters were using drone strikes on any of these people at all. I don't know. There was no carpet bombing. They didn't drop I don't remember the people of Congress being hit with white phosphorus, but because they got yelled at and shouted down, this is it. Like what the Trump people are screaming about is Nancy Pelosi drinking the blood of children, Trump won the election, or, turning the frogs gay because of some chemicals. Like, that's what the Trump people in La La Land are talking about.
It's completely incoherent. Yes.
Right. We're talking about a genocide going on with our tax dollars, with American-made weapons. That's why we're doing these things. Like, these are the tactics being used. And, like, I mean,
and they're clutching their pearls. Like, oh my God, I can't believe these people want Trump elected. It's like, no, that's absolutely not what's happening. We did a whole episode on this last week. Go check it out, guys.
Yeah.
On like why this is a fake, superficial, like, binary choice when it's not. It's patently ridiculous to think that these people want Trump elected.
Right.
But like, I think they do see them as some potential Biden voters, because for some Biden supporters, this crossed the line.
Mm-hmm.
And they're probably just not going to show up to vote, or they're just going to vote down ballot.
Right.
And they'll leave, like many people did in Michigan in, I think it was 2020. They left the president slot blank. They left it blank.
Yeah.
And they voted down ballot. Like, they will still show up to vote. They're just not going to vote for your guy because they crossed the line.
Right.
So it's nice to see that even like, soft lefties and even some liberals are starting to have their consciousness raised by like, I cannot support this guy anymore.
Really?
This is insane.
Right. I mean, I think what they're realizing, they're going to blame everybody but themselves for what's happening. You voted to fund genocide. You voted to send more bombs and more planes to Israel to facilitate that. That's why they're there. And the fact that like it's like, you're the reason why it's happening. Like, the reason why you're probably going to lose the election, Democrats, is because of yourself. You wanted Joe Biden so bad that you rigged the Democratic primary against Bernie. You got him. And then when you actually have other people, they talk about, other people tried running against them. Cornel West is running, but they're not going to get on the media because the media is owned by Wall Street, and Wall Street doesn't want any of these other people on there.
And Wall Street owns the Democrats.
Right.
They are the party of Wall Street.
Right.
And the Democrats will sue to keep third parties off the ballot, right?
Yeah.
To save
Right.
to do what? Save democracy. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
There is no
Yeah,
democracy left. Like
they
if
canceled
if
primaries
you've gotten to
against
that
Biden.
point where there is no democracy left. Yes.
Yeah, right. Canceling primaries. Very democratic. It's just a coronation ceremony. And yeah, now there is a clip he posts too about some people were harassing a woman there. And like, yes, now one thing I didn't hear, but like, keep it moving, B word. No, that's not, no. Okay, don't do that. All right. Like, I understand you're upset. We're angry. Don't use that language. Just saying, keep it moving, asshole. That's perfectly fine.
Asshole's gender neutral. Yeah.
Gender neutral. Say asshole. That's all you got to say, folks. If you're going to do it, all right. We don't cross certain lines. So don't use language like that. All right.
Dickhead is dickhead gender neutral?
Of course it is. Yeah. Yeah. I know plenty of dickheads. Everyone, and I work with a lot of them, but a lot of people ain't. But asshole, everyone's got one. So please. All right. But all right. The article unfortunately continues here.
Baby killer. Baby killer is another gender neutral term that is also factually correct.
Ooh, there we go. Yeah, I know. We're never talking about Vietnam, but sure. All right, we can do a throwback one here. So I'll read some more of the article here. The goal of these maneuvers is not to make the case for pro-Palestinian. The goal of these maneuvers is not to make the case for pro-Palestinian policy, but to abuse and deny basic rights to all of those who fail to endorse the protesters' beliefs. Oof. And yes, being prevented from holding a planned speech to supporters stalked on the street or subjected to sleep denial are all forms of abuse. Almost nobody believes all of these are just natural parts of the give and take of public disagreement. I'll just stop there for a minute. I hate to be a broken record, but when 12,000 children in Palestine have been killed by American-made weapons funded by these politicians who voted for this, too bad. I don't care. They're not stabbing you. They're not lynching people in the street. They have a bullhorn and they yell at you. You're having a brunch fundraiser and then someone says, ceasefire now. Oh, yeah. So no, the goal of these maneuvers is actually to make the case for a pro-Palestinian policy. Yeah, which is stop funding a genocide. I'm sorry, whoever this John idiot guy is, no, the goal is actually stop the bombing in a ceasefire now. That's what these people want, but
the thing is, though, like the ceasefire is still like the bare minimum.
Of course.
They can't even ask for that. Like ceasefire just means like temporarily halt the murder while we, get the children out.
Right.
You can go back to murdering.
We'll give you 6 weeks and then you can go back to killing it. But
they can't even do that. They can't even do
the minimum. Like the Democrat, like when Joe Biden said he wanted to do the public option for health care, that's the minimum. That was Obama's 2006 idea. They didn't do it. And Biden can't even, the Democrats can't even give you the minimum. God. But I mean, victory to the Antifada for us, but like the ceasefire, can we get the children out of there? Can we take kids out of the rock? Like, no. All right. I can go. All right. I'll go on because unfortunately there's going to be more dumb stuff coming here. I'm glad you're sitting down, Aaron, because this just gets dumber. The most elemental premise of liberalism is that politics should be governed by a uniform set of rules or norms that apply to everybody, regardless of the content of their beliefs. Over the last decade, an increasingly visible fault line has opened up on the left between political liberals and more radical activists. The illiberal left, I'm going to change the word illiberal to the actual. The actual left defines politics as a conflict between oppressor and victim. It does not believe the former deserves the same rights as the latter. Crucially, the special prerogatives of victimhood apply not only to the victims, but also to those struggling on their behalf. Okay. Abusive protesters usually meet critiques of their cool methods, liberal methods, with a facile comparison to the civil rights movement. But that movement was designed for a political environment in which basic liberal rights do not exist. Black Americans lack the right to vote, to petition for grievances, or to otherwise exert basic freedoms that white Americans enjoyed. The movement's theorists did not intend their carefully designed arguments to be a permanent license for any progressive cause to declare itself beyond the law of all time. God. Civil rights demonstrations had been shut out of electoral politics by force since Reconstruction. The pro-Palestinian movement, by contrast, is barely even attempting democratic participation. The movement could have run as an anti-Israel candidate against Biden, but never bothered, no doubt, anticipating they would lose. So let's just say, for example, now we don't play this game on the communist left here of like running in the Democratic Party. But if that's this liberal's argument, Marianne Williamson, anti-war, Cenk Uygur, anti-war. Those are two people who were very much in it. And what did they do? They closed the debate. Biden didn't have to debate them at all. He didn't actually go. And two of the states, I think, two of them didn't even cancel the primaries. They didn't even want to have this. Just like Bernie Sanders, when he was running in 2016, they don't want it, and it's their party, and they'll shut it down. That's why we don't participate in the Democratic Party. It's a rigged game, and idiots like this guy are going to try to tell you that, oh, well, why don't you just run? Yeah, well, I don't have, unfortunately, the anti-Israel candidate there doesn't have that many billionaires supporting it, unfortunately. Anti-war candidates don't get a lot of money from Raytheon and Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, and there's no consequence for shutting these debates down.
Right. No, nothing.
So like the genocide is happening now, not 6 months from now when the election is on.
Right. Right. When do we so when there's a genocide, make sure you fill out your paperwork. Make sure you get your clipboards, a cup of coffee, and you're going to get out there. And as tens of thousands of civilians are being blown up or gassed by white phosphorus, I'm glad there's a process. Just don't raise your voice. Please check your tone when you yell at these millionaire politicians. So please. And
when they did do that, someone ostensibly on the left, like Bernie, they closed ranks and did everything they could to stop him. He was filling stadiums with his message, and they did everything they could to shut him down. So no, like there is no form of protest or pushback that these liberals will find acceptable. So I say, fucking go all in, give them hell.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
And on the term oppressor and victim, I've got a quote here by Trotsky. From Their Morals and Ours, he writes, "A slave owner who through cunning and violence shackles a slave in chains, and a slave who through cunning or violence breaks the chains, let not the contemptible eunuchs tell us that they are equals before a court of morality." So if you think that oppressor and victim, these are somehow the same, when they use the same tactics, then they're on the same moral grounds. Basically, Trotsky calls you a dickless asshole, which is fucking fantastic.
Well done, Comrade Trotsky. Yep. So I'll just get on this. Maybe it was like 4 more paragraphs, and then this will be it. Thank God. Force is not their last resort, but their preferred. Oh, we're using force now. I guess we're using cops to beat up these people. They're being, I forget who. Force is not their last resort, but their preferred method. It allows them to maintain the moral binary that animates them in all its purity without engaging in the unpleasant compromises necessary to win the support of the majority of this country or even a party. Of course, large segments of the right dispensed with the guardrails of liberalism long time ago. Donald Trump's breakthrough insight is to stop even pretending that Republicans have to uphold any neutral standard of fairness. The Trump movement is a giant in-joke about this, delighting in the unembarrassed hypocrisy of endlessly complaining about crimes like corruption or weaponizing of government that Trump engages in nakedly himself. The illiberal left may have much less power than the illiberal right, but since this faction is demanding influence within the Democratic Party, it can no longer hide that notion that it's, quote, too marginal to be worth criticizing. That old evasion, why single out a handful of college teens? It's comical now that the illiberal tactics are playing an important role in a presidential election. Finally, the ethics of the cause come into sharper focus if you imagine it being done by Biden haters in red MAGA hats rather than Biden haters in kefias. Sure, they're, quote, idealistic. Plenty of Trump's followers have ideals too. If your movement's goal is to prevent those who disagree from expressing themselves, and you delight in meting out abuse and humiliation to your targets, you've shown the world that you cannot be trusted with power. So there is our a good liberal take on what's going on.
That's exactly what they could easily say about themselves. That last sentence is dead on, except
Right.
it's about them.
You know, one
They're,
thing
they're
I
the
always
ones
say,
they're the ones shutting down debate
right,
with
right.
force
You know,
and violence.
it's worth pointing out that, like, I'll be honest. Now, some people may say, what, the Trotskyist left is huge, but this guy thinks we have all this power and influence. Like, no, this isn't. We don't have the power here right now. The liberals have state power right now. They have the White House. They have, they got power. And what did they decide to do with it? Even though, was it 79% of the party supports a ceasefire and wants to stop the war right now, they're going to go through it anyway. 79% of your party wants this to stop. And you think that people yelling at you is the worst thing you had to go through today? Really? Every politician, the majority of politicians, Democrats, are millionaires who never have to work a real job or never probably worked a real job ever. And they're the ones who are thinking that we should just sit down, fill out some forms, wait in line, and the genocide. Well, I'm sorry. I just, these people are a joke. They really are. This is why, and just anyone who has illusions in the Democratic Party, they don't want you there. They will shut you down. This is not our party. You'll never get anywhere with them. And I know there's some left groups that try doing it. I'm not going to call any of them out because we're not that kind of podcast. Hopefully, I mean, maybe later on, but I'm not calling out any groups that are trying to work within the Democratic Party, no matter how many fancy ways you try to talk about it, but it's a dead end. It's always been a dead end. And dickheads like this guy are going to keep telling you that, check your tone and don't yell at us. We're going to keep sending more F-15s to Israel so they can keep it going. But, all right. So that's my banger of that's and who is this? Let me give him credit again. Jonathan Chiad, who's been a New York political columnist since 2011. Well, there you go. You're a fucking idiot, dude. All right. Good. I feel like I need a drink. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm fine. Just deflated. I don't know how many more of these I don't know how much more of these articles that I can handle about talking about both if you're protesting against Israel, you're a bad person. At least it seems like they've dropped the anti-Semitic thing. I think
slowed down a bit.
It just doesn't seem to work anymore. But also, if you oppose the Democrats in any way whatsoever, that means you want Trump to win.
Right.
And it's getting old. And I can't believe, what is it, April? We got seven more months of this shit.
Right. And one characteristic of someone with a narcissistic personality, I'm reading a book on it, I know some people in work like this, but narcissists never blame themselves for what's happening. At no point in his article did he say, these people have been helping to fund a genocide, and this is why people are upset. Not even like, I understand these people. They've written letters to their politicians. They voted. They did all, they worked perfectly. They did everything they were supposed to do within the system that they designed, and it never worked out. This is what a bourgeois government is. When people ask, like, what are you talking? We talk about a workers' government or a bourgeois government like this, run by fanatics, run by war profiteers, devout, fundamentalist Christians who have some weird beliefs about Israel and Jesus returning and everything. This is what they're going to get. Their donors run the party, not us, not the voters, not the people who think that labor unions have a huge influence. They don't. It's the people with all the money who run Wall Street, who run the banks, who have vested economic interest in Israel. That's what's happening. And that's why they're doing it. And I almost think that the Democrats are Biden is purposely throwing this election just for I can't believe how far he's gone with this crap.
The majority of Democrats want another candidate.
Yes. Yeah. And a majority of Republicans, the majority of Americans do not want either one of these candidates running again. This is not the best political system in the world. This is the best political system that money can buy. And here we are. Oh, all right. Just way to go, Democrats. You fucked up again. All right, Aaron, you got a story?
Unfortunately, I don't have anything much better news.
Oh.
This comes to us from Revolutionary Communist Party, the Israel murders aid workers. Western imperialism is complicit. So you heard about Western Central Kitchen.
Yep.
Seven aid workers who were not Israeli, and they were not Hamas. They were just citizens from out of the country, just trying to feed hungry people. That was their only crime.
Yep.
On April 1st, they were killed in Gaza. Their Jeep was bombarded by the military. You can see in the images that they had clearly and plainly marked the roof of their vehicle with their logo. So
literally, you can see the missile go through. Like, yeah, I've seen that image.
Yeah,
through the sign.
It's insane. They shared their coordinates with Israeli intelligence, and so it's not like the Israelis didn't know where they were, or like they'd be in the area.
Maybe they're illiterate. Maybe they don't know how to read. I don't know. I'm trying here, but I mean, Jesus Christ.
The brigadier commander, 19-year-old with the Xbox controller.
Was he really 19?
No, I don't know.
Oh, I mean, no, really. I know. It's sad that I have to ask if you're joking. Okay.
The average age in the Israeli military is like absurdly low, and they're all like brigadier generals.
I'm actually, oddly enough, I'm a colonel in the IOF. Isn't that weird? I just showed up and I'm already a colonel. I have 3 battalions, so nice going. Yep. Good.
Traveling through a non-combat zone, it shared its coordinates with them. And the IDF this comes to us from the Haaretz, that the general staff know exactly why WCK were bombed. So like even Israeli media is saying like this was probably intentional. In the strip, everyone does whatever they like. So in other words, the entire IDF units are targeting civilians with impunity. So this is straight up murder of foreign civilians by Israel, because like they just don't even pretend that they even try and avoid civilian casualties.
No, my God. I mean, also, if I can, I'll just list off the 7 people's names, if that's okay, because
sure.
I like to put a name. We got James Kirby. James Kirby from the UK, Jim Henderson from the UK, John Chapman from the UK, Jacob Flickinger who was a dual citizen of US and Canada, Damien Sobal, 35, from Poland, Zomi Frankom from Australia, and Safaid Issam Aid Buddha, who was 25 years old, who was a Palestinian. So it's just worth mentioning these people's names, who were trying to do something good in a horrific area. And I don't care what Israel has to. You know what?
So there's one Palestinian amongst them.
One
obviously
guy.
It was Hamas.
Yeah, that's it. I actually have a clip from John Kirby talking about that, if I can play that for you. So this is just a short clip I'll play here. This is John Kirby, who is a spokesman for the United States National Security Department, I think. So here's the clip. It's just it's about a minute and a half long.
But on the point of conditions, the President on February 8th issued a memo, and it said, and you already know this, but just for context, it said that it was the policy of this administration to prevent arms transfers that risk facilitating or otherwise contributing to violations of human rights or international humanitarian law. Is firing a missile at people delivering food and killing them not a violation of international humanitarian law?
Well, the Israelis have already admitted that this was a mistake that they made. They're doing an investigation. They'll get to the bottom of this. Let's not get ahead of that. Your question presumes, at this very early hour, that it was a deliberate strike, that they knew exactly what they were hitting, that they were hitting aid workers and did it on purpose, and there's no evidence of that. I would also remind you, sir, that we continue to look at incidents as they occur. The State Department has a process in place. And to date, as you and I are speaking, they have not found any incidents where the Israelis have violated international humanitarian law. Unless you think we don't take it seriously, I can assure you that we do. We look at this in real time.
They have never violated international humanitarian law ever in the past 5 to 6 months.
I'm telling you, the State Department has looked at incidents in the past and has yet to determine that any of those incidents violate international humanitarian law.
So not bad, right? So no laws have been broken. No in the whole during the war. This man will tell you Israel has not broken a single law.
Yeah, I think we played this clip last week.
Is this from the aid? But like, this is just the crap they were saying about like they will just lie to their face. They know what Israel's doing. and they're lying to us. I don't know how much credibility that anyone has with the Biden regime at all, but they are lying. They know what they're doing. They know it, and they're going to keep covering up for them. And you think there would be consequences for that, but no, because they just approved $18 billion worth of sales and also 2,000-pound bombs after this.
Yep.
That's what's happening. But all right, so I just wanted to put that in there because, wow. But all right, I'm sorry about that. But
so as a direct result of these aid workers getting killed, ships carrying 300 million tons of food and supplies have been turned around back to Cyprus, and aid agencies are just straight up pulling out of Gaza. Like, no, we can't work with this anymore. These guys do not care. As we've already talked about last week, Joe Biden says that he is outraged and heartbroken by the killings.
Good.
That's good. Yeah.
I mean, not that heartbroken because he just approved $18 billion.
Yeah, that's right.
The people who were getting yelled at and were very upset by their feelings being hurt, $18 billion more worth of weaponry to continue this. Good stuff. Jesus, I can't. This is
it's just I don't know how much more of the hypocrisy of our world leaders, like Trudeau saying the same sort of shit. The opposition who props him up. Also, crocodile tears across the board from all leaders of imperialist countries, and every single one of these people have blood on their hands.
You know, maybe next time you should just run an anti-Israel candidate in the Democratic primary, and that would have done it.
Yeah,
but,
circle a petition and voice your opinion softly and calmly in your free speech designated zones.
No,
and
that's exactly it. You can
leave
write
us
a letter.
The fuck alone.
Yep. There's a phone number you can call the switchboard for the White House. You let them know, and they'll get right back to you, and they'll talk about that.
Yep, and that's all we can do. And it's just like, and then I was just thinking. So I've got an article here from Lever News, and it reminded me of because Lever is owned by Dave Sirota, who co-wrote or produced, or forget how he was involved with Don't Look Up.
Oh, yeah, he was a co-writer with Adam McKay.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, it was an okay movie, but like
I liked it. Yeah.
Again, the conclusion, they literally have a line in the movie where it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Overthrow the government after they've exhausted every possible option they have to get the government's attention that a meteor is going to hit the fucking earth.
Yep.
And then that's just dismissed as like the most ridiculous option. It's like, what other options do you have?
Right.
Like, you have none. Like,
no.
Yeah. Yes. Overthrow the government. What are you waiting for?
I mean, not that John F. Kennedy was a communist revolutionary, but the quote he said is that those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. It's a good quote because, we don't advocate violence on the podcast, but what we do say is, yes, use direct confrontation, confront people who fund genocide, go after them, make them uncomfortable. Make them wherever they go uncomfortable, because what we use is this thing called pressure. You pressure these people. You go up to them. You have protests. You have rallies. You use a megaphone. If they're leaving a $4,000 a plate dinner in a big swanky place in the middle of downtown city, good. Boo hoo. You like there's kids who are getting their legs amputated without anesthesia. I'm getting tired of seeing dead children coming up in my feed, because this is what Israel's doing with American-made weaponry with my tax dollars. So no, I'm subsidizing this, and this is what my money's being fucking used for, and it just drives me nuts. Yep. But check your tone. Thanks. Oh, God.
Well, sometimes back when I used to be a streamer on Twitch.
Oh yeah. What was that Twitch called? What was the name of it?
Marxist archaeologist. I might go back to it at one point. I don't know. We'll see. Should. People would come on and say and argue like there was already existing forms of socialism. For example, publicly traded companies and owning stock in companies is a form of socialism, because it's the means of production are in the hands of anybody who wants to buy into it, and so they argue that that's socialism. I'm not joking.
Really?
Like people people have argued this. I'm like, okay, let's say for a second that's true, that you become a shareholder of a company, and then so now your input and your voice becomes important, right?
It's one person, one vote, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's how that works.
Right. Because if Warren Buffett buys 1 million shares of some company and I buy one, we're both 1-1, right? He doesn't get like 1 million votes and I get one. That's not how it works. That's not it.
Actually,
right?
You just described exactly how it works.
Oh, well, this quote unquote socialism sounds a lot like capitalism.
Because let's say you have a problem with the big oil companies, right? What if you just became a shareholder and then trying to get onto their meetings and then try and direct them towards a bit more green energy? Well, this comes to us from David Sirota in the lever.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Exxon declares war on its dissenters. So the fossil fuel giant is suing investors to intimidate them from ever trying to influence corporate decisions.
What the fuck?
So ExxonMobil has launched an extraordinary lawsuit against 2 investment firms for the alleged offense of filing climate-focused shareholder proposals. The fossil fuel giant's underlying goal is killing a federal regulatory effort that would make it easier for all U.S. shareholders to voice environmental and social concerns about the companies they own. Critics say the company is also trying to intimidate shareholders from ever proposing such resolutions again in the future, under threat of being tied up in expensive litigation and incurring punitive financial penalties. If successful, the Exxon lawsuit could set a legal precedent, wresting control away from regulators and cracking down on activists and investors working to enact more climate-friendly policies. So,
do I get to vote on that?
Yeah, like there is no holding these companies to account. There is nothing holding these companies to account. The workers cannot do it on their own. Only a revolution that nationalizes these corporations will have like even a chance of stopping them, right? You're not gonna. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Boycott Exxon? Like, how are you gonna do that? I will.
Well, we did that after 9/11, and that taught them a lesson. I remember those chain letters. Yeah, you boycott them, and that's it for Saudi Arabia, which I don't think even exists anymore because of those successful boycotts we did on 9/12. Did that work?
What are you talking
going to
about?
rein in the power that way? No.
What on earth are you talking about?
Well, you're too young for this, I think. There was
dude, I was like 14.
Okay, all right. So I was 18. So there was this thing where, like, in order to get back at the Saudi Arabia, they were chain letters. Kids, if you're under 40, ask your parents. But so what you do, you got these chain letters in your email, and they would say, "Hey, on this day, we're going to do buy no gasoline from like Exxon or whatever, Mobil, Shell, whatever thing. And if we all boycott it, they're going to lose all this money and that'll hurt them. And that's it." So, oddly enough, it didn't work. Those boycotts didn't really happen, but, you can't really, it's not going to really work that way. You know, this consumer, I mean, boycotts are a good secondary action. If like there was a labor strike, we do support boycotts. But if you're going to be like, I'm going to boycott brand X because it does bad stuff, you know, it's nice, but don't think it's going to change anything. You know, when there's a strike going on, yes, then we support it. But no, boycotts are not, you know, no, on its own by itself, not really that good. It's like shooting a BB gun at a freight train. It's not going to really slow the train down. Yeah, I hate to break it, but so
okay. All right, back to you, Chris. What do you got?
All right. So speaking of freight trains, now, and let's go back. Let's go back in time, right? I want to go to a year, and I want to think of a year that the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865. By many accounts, a long time ago. There were certain laws, for example, penicillin wasn't discovered. Slavery, still legal. And also, women could not have the right to vote. That would happen after the Soviet Union gave women the right to vote. So we're in 1864.
Isn't slavery still legal now?
Is what?
Slavery is still legal now, isn't it?
It weirdly, Mississippi was the last one to ratify that into its law. That it was like in the 90s or weird.
No, but like the 13th Amendment says slavery.
That's
is still
a
legal.
Loophole. That's a little different. We could have a long thing about the 13th Amendment. Was it the 14th? I forget. Yeah, prison labor. That was the new. That was actually
prison labor. And so
or a system.
Part of the reason why, again, the systemic racism has never truly been addressed because it is a free form of black labor in the U.S. that's still legal to this day. I would argue that the U.S. never truly abolished slavery. But apologies, continue.
Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot about that in prison labor, which still goes on in private corporations like Victoria's Secrets and other things used, but in Nike. So in 1864, the territory of Arizona, population less than 10,000 people, passed a law that said that women cannot get an abortion for any reason other than her life was in danger. So if she was raped or there was a pregnancy over incest, too bad. That's it, because it's 1864. So after the Trump, the right-wing Supreme Court, overturned Roe v. Wade, now all these old draconian laws came up. So Arizona, the Supreme Court decided to actually go ahead and bring back the law. And recently, one of Trump's biggest supporters, I'm not sure if you know who she is, but have you heard the name Carrie Lake at all by chance?
Yes.
Yes. So here we go. So here's a little article I have right here. I'm just going to be, so this is from was it MSN? Carrie Lake own words come back to haunt her following a shock Arizona ruling. Oh, so here we go. I like this right off the bat. MAGA extremist, election denier, and senatorial candidate Carrie Lake has been trying to rewrite history following yesterday's surprise Arizona Supreme Court ruling on abortion. The state Supreme Court upheld a draconian 1864 law that bans all abortion in the state. Anyone found guilty of obtaining or aiding someone to obtain an abortion faces a 2 to 5 years in jail. The only exception is the termination is necessary to save the pregnant person's life. Democrats widely condemn the 4-2 ruling. It has also left a number of Republicans unhappy. Many in the GOP know that the total abortion ban boosts support for Democrats when it comes to elections. Lake herself has previously said she's against abortion. She's expressed the belief that Arizona would ban abortion if the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, which it did in 2022. So she should be happy about the ruling, right? Well, it seems not. So Lake is facing a tough battle in her bid to become senator against Democrat Ruben Galeo. Most polls have him slightly ahead of her. The Arizona Supreme Court's decision looks highly likely to cement that advantage. A petition demanding the issue of abortion be added to the ballot this November has already gained over 500,000 signatures. That's 120,000 more needed to ensure it goes to the electorate this November. Just a point too, side note, that Ohio had a very similar thing. A lot of conservative states have had, and these ballot questions wildly win to support pro-abortion access. So this is something that the Republicans have bitten off more than they can chew to take away women's rights. Adding to the ballot will also spur people to come out and vote in November. Many are likely to support Galeo. Lake's reaction to yesterday's ruling was to issue a press release distancing herself from it. She said, quote, "It is abundantly clear that the pre-statehood law is out of step with Arizonans. I oppose today's ruling, and I'm calling on the Democratic governor, Katie Hobbs, and the state legislature to come up with an immediate common sense solution that Arizonans can report." Now, what's weird about the internet, Aaron, is that people can look things up pretty quickly. And here we go. Now, I have another thing. Let me just share the audio on this. So let me just share here. So here we go. Now I'm going to play this clip of Carrie Lake saying something about this in June 24th. So this is 2 years ago. So here we go.
I'm incredibly thrilled that we are going to have a great law that's already on the books. So it will prohibit abortion in Arizona. And I think we're going to be paving the way and setting course for other states to follow.
Well, there we go. Straight from the horse's mouth. This is it. So if abortion is going to be discussed, this is what they wanted. So,
right. Okay. So what you're saying is like she was in favor of it 2 years ago, but now that it's actually passed, she's like, oh shit, like this might actually cost me the election. This between this and the genocide, it's really a race of like who can lose the most in November. It's truly extraordinary.
Yes, that's the whole thing. It's like at certain points, I'm wondering who's going to be worse this election. And it's mind-boggling because I'm like, you've done this, and now you're going to ban abortion and complete, like, it's just, this is why we need a left-wing party in this country. Some say we need a workers' party. Some say we need an actual communist party. I'm sorry, Communist Party USA, and I'm guessing the Communist Party of Canada, you aren't the ones to lead that role anymore. You had some potential. I don't know much about the CP of Canada, but the Communist Party of USA, ever since maybe the 30s, of supporting Democrats for whatever dumb Stalinist reason they did, they're a joke now, and they continue to be one. So I know. Sorry, I know we don't want to attack other leftists, but Communist Party USA, come on, guys.
Oh, Popular Front.
Yeah, do better. All right, just give up the name. But I'll just move down a little bit more on this thing here. But so she gave another interview. Now she might say, well, I didn't really mean it, but she just continues to do it. So I'm going to see what this clip is here.
We are recording this at the time that we're recording this. The Supreme Court has not yet issued the Dobbs decision. It can come down any day. And perhaps when people watch this interview, it will have already come down. But presuming that it goes the way that the leaked opinion indicates, you'll be on the scene as governor at a very, very providential moment, in the sense that the states will, through their elected representatives, through their governors, through their people, be able to do more to protect these babies than ever before, thanks to the court removing this obstacle of saying abortion is a constitutional right. So that's particularly exciting for me and for all who support you, that you'll actually be able to protect these children in Arizona in a way that hasn't been possible up to now.
We have great legislation already on the books. So when this decision comes down, that will kind of click in, and we will see older legislation that's already been passed. And Arizona will not be a state where abortions are happening. We need to protect the life of our most vulnerable. I'm excited to be running, and I believe I will win, God willing, and the people of Arizona vote for me. We will make sure that we're protecting the most vulnerable among us, and that Arizona will be known as a state that values the life of all people, including our unborn. We view them as Arizonans. And we want the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all. We're at a time, Father Frank, where we need to start doing the right thing, the moral thing. And sometimes you're going to have people fighting and protesting and angry. But what is the right thing to do? What is the moral thing to do? And we need more leaders who are moral and will do the right thing, not what the polls are telling them to do, not from the pressure of some people who might be out protesting, but the right thing.
So in case you missed the quote, she said, quote, great legislation already on the books. She favored this. She's going to play stupid with everybody, pretending that she doesn't mean this. She got caught. And just when you they're like, it's just like, it really is like the race to the bottom of like how much worse. This probably might cost the Republicans the election, but who knows? Who knows what Biden and the Democrats are going to do next? Right now, they're fucking up with this too, but holy shit. It's just amazing. So that's anything else? No.
It's a good thing Arizona doesn't have any other pressing issues going on right now.
No, there's nothing else, just taking rights away from women and everything, and letting victims of rape and incest being forced, nothing like having, like in Ohio, what happened when 11-year-old girl was forced to give birth to a child of, I think, rape and incest. Like,
right, because they couldn't prove
this is the world they want for us. I'm
why?
just telling you, this is it.
They couldn't prove it was rape.
Yeah, but
I know it's shocking. Wait, they couldn't prove an 11-year-old girl, a pregnant 11-year-old girl, they couldn't prove she was raped. She's 11 years old. Like, it's the dumbest people are in charge.
These are the sickos in charge, and this is what they want to do to women.
Yeah, that's why we should vote Democrat.
Vote Democrat, vote Republican. They're both trash. Democrats aren't getting off the hook either. You could have put Roe versus Wade into law. It would have been over. So it could have been overturned. You could have done it, but you didn't do it with Obama. You could have done it with Biden. You could have done it with Jimmy Carter. You chose not to do it.
There's enough villains of the week that it's always something impeding them. They could have like 99 votes in the House, and 49 of them will still be against abortion.
Yeah, it's just insane. So yeah, so that's all I'll say about that for her. I got one more. Do you have any other articles?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, I got one last one, and this comes from our colleagues at the Party for Socialism and Liberation. This is Liberation News. And this article caught my eye. It's called U.S. Workers Forced to Bail Out Intel, a Top 100 Company. Aaron, how do you feel about corporate welfare?
It's great. It's basically socialism.
Right. It pretty much is, because now Aaron and I to talk off air. Now, don't listen to other leftists. If the government does it, it's socialism. All right. That's all you need to know. The more the government does, the more socialister it becomes. So that's what some right-winger dum-dum would try to tell you. So, so we're going to go back to Arizona. So this is just kind of a short article, but I want to read it out here. And this is written by Chris Scarfara. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, Chris, but I like your first name. It's very good. And this came out April 1st of this year. So here it is. The U.S. government is set to give leading Microchip manufacturer Intel. Have you heard of Intel, Aaron? I don't know this company. Is it small? It's pretty small.
They have
company.
a massive chip factory in Israel.
Oh, no kidding. Well, that's interesting because they just got an $8.5 billion grant and then $11 billion in loans in additional tax credits. And President Biden announced the grant, part of a massive $200 billion CHIPS Act on March 20th in Arizona. Intel hardly needs a bailout from the government. Now, Aaron, how much profit do you think they made for 2023, would you say?
Oh, geez.
Remember, they're getting a bailout, so don't
Intel,
think,
isn't that when they're
in trouble, right? Bailouts are for companies in trouble.
No, that's when they're like 12th gen or 13th gen chips came out last year. They were pretty decent chips. They run awfully hot. Fuck, I don't know, 20 million profit.
Well, maybe if that was a bad day. They made $27 billion in profit.
Holy
so
shit.
Good thing they're going to get another about 9. And yeah. While financial analysts fret about Intel's shrinking profits and lack of quarter-to-quarter growth as it posted its first net loss in over 30 years, in 2022, the company's numbers far outpaced its primary competitor in the field of consumer and server chips, AMD. Intel maintains a 78% market share of PC chips globally, with AMD doing 13%. Like many other companies, it's investing significantly in the types of chips that are best to power AI algorithms. And then it kind of goes on about how it's going to be working for AI. The CEO, Pat Gelsinger, was lauded for taking, now this is nice. He took a 25% pay cut in 2023 as the company's stock fell 50%. Hero. Right. You know, Aaron, you know, sometimes, you know, I'm not going to read the rest. Let me just I didn't finish this article, but you know what? Maybe we are a little too harsh on the CEOs. 25% pay cut's noble. I'm sure this guy, I bet he's probably returning soda cans just to make ends meet and cutting coupons. But, and he only made 1.25 million, which is, but unfortunately, the other compensation, stock options, $179 million in 2021.
And then 2022. That salary seems a little low.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But yeah, your salary, some people, CEOs will do this. I took only a salary of $1, but like, yeah, you get stock options, you idiot. Yeah, that's where they get the real money. So he made 179 and then he went back to, he made 11.6 million in salary. Meanwhile, where he lives, the average per capita income is just $41,000. And while the semiconductor industry moved jobs overseas, companies like Intel, along with IBM, Qualcomm, Texas Instruments, and Broadcom, spent a staggering $249 billion, or 70% of their profit, on stock buybacks from 2011 to 2020. Thank God I am giving them a tax. You know, thank God we're giving them
did you read that right?
Yeah.
That's $250 billion.
Over 9 years. Yep. 2011 to 2012. That's it. That's how much these companies are all giving them back. And yet we have to bail them out. That's good.
Yeah, you have to subsidize their spending.
Right. I mean, I understand yachts and private jets are very expensive, Aaron. I don't know if you know the price of what a yacht goes for, but you know, everything's going through the roof, and these guys, you know, they need the help.
Do the workers see any of this? Like, what do the workers get? Because
I don't think they're going to get 179 million. I'm pretty sure. I don't think that's going to happen to them.
Because the tech sector is seeing like massive layoffs across the board.
Right. And there's always a correlation between massive layoffs and then profit. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like,
totally weird.
Right. Like Mark Zuckerberg makes up that stupid 3D. What's that thing he made? The metaverse. Spent billions on it. No one used it. Sank 18 billion on it. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing happens.
Yeah.
He announces layoffs. Stock line goes up. There you go.
The rich have no idea what to do with their money, and it's so frustrating. Give me $1 billion and watch what I can do with it.
Oh my God!
Watch me solve homelessness.
Shit. All right. Intel is also the target of the international boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, kind of what Aaron was alluding to earlier. On March 19th, the day before the Arizona announcement, the Palestinian BDS National Committee launched a boycott Intel campaign, citing the company's plans for a $25 billion foundry in Israel. Oh, gee, I wonder why we're supporting Israel. It's almost like we have an economic interest in it. Between grants, loans with generous terms and tax breaks, Intel's benefits from the CHIPS Act's funding comes up to nearly $25 billion. Intel already has facilities in the Israeli government of, I can't pronounce that. The committee also noted that in 2020, Intel was indirectly employing some 53,000 workers in Israel. And in 2022, Intel Israel declared exports of $8.7 billion, which is 1.75% of Israel's entire GDP. So where will the money go?
So ultimately, at the end of the day, we are subsidizing a genocide.
Yep.
And funding the security of Israel, not just as military protection of the United States, but also it looks like they're tooling up Intel to start producing microchips to compete with the factory in Taiwan, which they assume China is going to
take over,
invade, whatever the West wants to call it.
Yep. Right. It's weird. It's almost like, and we're using our military to protect Israel because we have investments there. Is there a term for this? Like, we have our military investments, and
it rhymes with blimperialism.
Oh God! If only someone wrote a book about it. But
do check it out.
Yeah. So wow. This PSL
Lenin's imperialism.
Nice
It's always shocking how like there's always a relevant Marxist text to like every story in the news.
Yeah, this was good. And so where will the money go? Which you asked a question. Biden has framed the CHIPS announcement as a boon to the working class, but most of the jobs it would create would only be temporary. The federal funds will go into 2 plants, each in Chandler, Arizona, and New Albany, Ohio, and will upgrade an existing plant in Arizona. Intel and the Biden administration are touting a total of 30,000 jobs to be created, but the New York Times said only 10,000 of those will be manufacturing. The other 20,000 jobs will be temporary construction jobs. Once the plants are open, the construction jobs will end. In 2022, announced a new $20 billion fab or chip manufacturing plant to be built in New Albany, Ohio. But just a month before the scheduled groundbreaking, as Congress debated and stalled on passing the CHIPS Act, Intel announced they were putting the Albany project on hold, effectively holding the government and workers hostage unless the government bailed them out. Yeah. So either we're not going to do this unless you give us our money. So good. I'm glad the capitalist class that gives themselves all that money is just doing that to the taxpayer. Further, while Intel's press release touts their commitment to corporate responsibility, the company has a history of creating danger, and it just kind of goes on about how they end up dumping poisonous chemicals, or what they call TCEs, all over the place. Which in Massachusetts, where I'm from, we have PCBs, the forever chemicals there was a GE plant in the Western state. Massive contamination in the water. We get things from the town about these PCBs being in our water, and the state, not GE, but the state now has to spend all the taxpayer money to fix the water that they created. So that's it there too. It goes on a little bit more. But I'll just stop right there. So because we've had a long one here, but yeah, so there's our corporate welfare going back to the richest people who used money to give themselves stock buybacks. Now we have to pay a CEO who made $179 million, $8.5 billion and $11 billion in generous loans. These are loans that students don't get. The interest rates on student loan payments are like 4 to 6%. they're going to get a loan at 1%. Like they get nice interest rate deals that you and I, Aaron, would never get unless we're a multi-billion-dollar Fortune 100 company. So that also helps, employ Israeli that works with Israeli terrorists.
Yeah, it's fucking insane, right? And it's like the reason why Americans and working class people across the world are hurting so badly is because every hour that we're working is funneling money up to the top, right? It's a little bit of the money you earn per day, a little bit of that is taxed, and then a little bit of that is for yourself. And then after a certain number of hours, that's all going to the top. That's all just being funneled to the top. What is it, like 3 people now own 50% of all wealth in the United States? Like it is absurd. The reason why your teeth hurt and the reason why there is no health care is not because of a lack of government spending, because like these guys just leech off of the government as well, right?
Right.
The government and people like constantly gets people elected who fight against taxation, because taxation is blamed. Like we have the carbon tax here in Canada. It's a 4 cent per liter tax. I know that means nothing to you.
I've heard of Canada.
You ever heard of liters? We measure our gasoline in liters.
I thought I was getting such a good deal when I was up in your fair country. And I'm like,
oh my God,
whoa,
no.
It is cheap as hell up here to. I'm like, wait, liters? Oh. And then I paid €900, I think, to fill up my, I don't know, the economic. Why do you have so many coins? All right. Dollar bills. Please, God. I felt like I robbed a homeless man, for God's sakes. I have 64 pounds worth of coins. Your Boston pizza place was not Boston pizza. That's all I'm going to say. All right.
No, it's dog shit. Why would you eat there? Oh my God.
Because it was something. I'm like, oh, look, there we are. And I told my wife, I'm like, look, we can go there. We're going to go back home. Number one, we don't obsess about hockey that much. And number two, that's not Boston pizza. All right. Friendly people, the beer. Okay. Molson. All right. I guess when in Rome, but that was not a Boston pizza. Friendly as hell people, though. I love going up to visit your fine
anyway
country.
So we had massive protests going on against our government over the carbon tax, right? 4 cents a liter got added on to the gas stations, right? On any given day, the gas companies can increase or decrease the price of gas by like 15 to 20 cents, and none of these people bat an eye. But the second the government puts a tax to tax carbon, again, that's a regressive tax that's taxing working people, so we should be against it. But also, like, the reason like they don't protest the gas companies, they protest the government, because the government gives us the illusion that the people that we elect are somehow accountable, right? Because we actually vote for these people. Imagine if we could vote for a workers' council of an oil company, right?
That sounds like socialism, Aaron.
I know that's complete nonsense. But like, imagine if CEOs were just as accountable as our politicians, right? As little as they are, but like, Jesus Christ, it's.
Well, I hope you don't yell at them. Okay, check your tone. Okay, that article taught me something: to politely fill out a form and write a letter. All right,
and run a candidate in their own party that's designed to stifle any dissenting voices. Of course,
exactly. Yes. Finally, thank you, John, for writing that article. Aaron has seen the light. Thank you. We will politely disagree as they rain hellfire down on children. So, all right.
Okay. Well, this was a bummer of an episode.
You should have done your thing at the end, because that was actually kind of inspiring. And now it's like, good God. All right. Well, thank you again for listening, folks.
I guess just remember, like, throughout history, eclipses have been omens. But they've also, ended wars, and they've been a symbol of, like, if the sun can survive the darkness, then maybe so can we. Yeah. So thank you very much, folks. We'll see you possibly next week, and have a great day. And
yes, thank you for listening. Oh, also, we are on Blue Sky. We are on Facebook, the Left Opposition Podcast, not the podcast, but the podcast. And if you could, we would greatly appreciate a 5-star review. Write a comment, talk about how great the show is. Tell your friends, tell your families. If you hated the podcast, tell your enemy. If you love the podcast, tell a friend, whatever, just get them out there. Please, God, there you go. All right. So thank you very much.
All right. Take us out, Carl.
Which aspects of our nature will prevail is uncertain, particularly when our visions and prospects are bound to one small part of the small planet Earth. But up there in the cosmos, an inescapable perspective awaits. National boundaries are not evident when we view the Earth from space. Fanatic ethnic or religious or national identifications are a little difficult to support when we see our planet as a fragile blue crescent fading to become an inconspicuous point of light against the bastion and citadel of the stars.